Te hunga kua whai atu I te ranamunamu ki tai ao haramai. Haere, tātou kei te ao maramati he wa Māori ora, and welcome back to the Hui. RMA Reform Minister Chris Bishop is seeking cross-party support for the government's sweeping new package. Now, part of those reforms include the removal of Treaty of Waitangi clauses in the proposed new legislation. Will the minister receive that sought-after support from Te Pāti Māori? I sat down with the party's co-leader and MP for Te Tai Hawauru, Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, tēnā koe.
Kia ora.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for having us. Last week, the government unveiled its changes to RMA. What do you make of them?
I think, because 34 years in the waiting, the RMA has required changes. But the way that this government is doing changes, first of all, we rang 65 plus iwi. They weren't aware it was being dropped down that day. It doesn't provide the certainty, that the protection of our environment that I think we need to be doing. There's a lot wrong with it, which is not too surprising, the way that this government's agenda has been. Very atlasy, let's make sure we're talking about how we get things done fast and get business done fast, and let's not worry about too much the environment. But we've seen that done. We've seen houses should be built to last, not built too fast. And I think these are some of the things that the government's agenda worries us about.
So, to be clear for me, you're not against infrastructure, right?
No,
and this is what the government talks about all the
Yeah.
time, particularly with RMA. It's a system and the process to enable that infrastructure to be sustainable
That's
and
right.
everlast.
And also ensure that we don't lose our rights as tangata whenua. And this is exactly what the government, surprise, surprise, is doing, is removing the regard to te tiriti principles. And that has a huge impact on every iwi and their settlements, every accords that have been agreed to. That's why iwi should never be surprised with where the government's going. Now, they're going to put this through fast. They want to see it signed off by the end of the year.
So I'll come to the treaty clause, but let me ask about the use of natural resources, which is what this government talks about. Are you against the use of natural resources?
I'm against the use of natural resources if it means that we are going to bring them to an end for the next generation. This is not anti-progress. Progress is to also make sure we look after our future generations. It's not profit at the cost of our people and profit at the cost of our resources.
What are the impacts going to be of these proposed changes to the RMA on your people of Ngāti Ruwani?
Yeah, sure. And look, I can only repeat what I've seen my people of Ngāti Ruwani put out. They've put out a press release saying that they believe that the RMA is going to affect their whole settlement legislation. Now, that's concerning, because the first thing when we spoke to most of the iwi is that they've all lawyered up. Now, New Zealanders don't want to go into a realm where there's uncertainty. Investors don't want to go into infrastructure, into a realm of uncertainty. And that's what these reforms do. They give no certainty to the protection of the rights and interests of iwi and hapu. They give no rights and have no consideration to the community and the well-being of those communities. In fact, all of that's completely been wiped out.
The Minister, the Honourable Chris Bishop, has given a guarantee that those iwi who have settled, so Ngāti Ruwani Settlement Act 2003, will not be affected by the RMA changes, that those settlements will remain sacrosanct. What's your response to that?
Well, my response is that the iwi are the ones saying that they should know. It is up to them to be able to say, this is what happens for us. There's no iwi that said they support the changes. There's no iwi that have come out and said, we're fine, our settlement's okay. None. And I don't think it's up for Chris Bishop to be saying what each iwi individually is contending with and how they feel about it, because they told us in the House they simply haven't engaged.
Why is it so important to have a treaty clause or treaty principles in something like the RMA?
Because the whole rights and interests of us as Māori are reflected in te tiriti. The settlements are all negotiated as breaches of te tiriti, making sure that the Crown, the local government, regional council honour te tiriti and honour the settlement and the accords that iwi have as part and parcel in the RMA. Again, this is change that's been needed for a long time, but the RMA should be led by a tangata whenua clause. It includes obligation to te tiriti and honouring te tiriti. By removing the principles, that whole regard's gone. I think the other thing that really concerns me that we've seen is that at no stage have we seen this government get te tiriti right. So there should be alarm.
The Minister of Māori Development, when the changes were announced, initially said he wasn't aware that the treaty clause or treaty principles were being removed. And then he changed his tone and backtracked on that and said he was confused and proffered mischaracterizations by media potentially as a reason why he was confused. What do you make of his response in this regard?
The Minister is part of the Cabinet. We've all seen the Cabinet minutes. We've all seen where Cabinet decided to ignore experts. And so the fact that we have someone as important as the Minister for Māori Development, someone like Tama, who should be out there making sure he's fighting for us, that is extremely concerning, especially when it's as huge for us in Te Ao Māori.
This is a numbers game. And at the moment, you don't have the numbers to be able to stop these changes being proposed by the government. So what options are left now? What do you do?
What we need to do is make sure we did with the Treaty Principles Bill, which is actually get the information out there, help our people to understand how serious this is. And again, we've become really great at doing submissions as a people and continue to push that. I think also the government underestimates the power of iwi. And we saw the wave of that the minute that the surprise announcement, I think from the biggest to the smallest iwi, that this is on their radar. And I have every confidence that their forum and platform has just as much power, if not more, than Parliament.
Debbie, could the government take from the participation of iwi in the recent infrastructure symposium support for what it's trying to do with infrastructure through the RMA?
At no stage would any iwi propose to go into an infrastructural relationship, investment relationship, accepting the Crown defaulting its obligation to honour te tiriti. And one of the questions we did ask the Prime Minister is, while you respect iwi and our economic power, you have to also expect that that comes across to our tiriti, mana and power. It's not one or the other. We're not like a bank where you can just go and have a commercial relationship and forget about the cultural obligation, the rights and interests obligations, because I've been to iwi AGMs when they've got that mix wrong, and our people are very quick to correct. Iwi entities are made up of hapu marae. They are the mana of these kaupapa. They are the mana of te tiriti o Waitangi. There is not one or the other.
I want to talk about your private member's bill that was drawn from the ballot, the Waiora Bill. What prompted it, Debbie?
Yeah. Actually, it was Ken Mayer and Sister Margareta and a whole lot of our whanaunga and Wanganui, and the whole purpose of it was really they were fighting against a commercial company coming in through the Regional Council, Horizon at the time, who have granted a permit to be able to empty out the aquifer, empty out the last of the quality wai that they have to be able to bottle and ship offshore. And, it's just crazy that we have a system in Aotearoa that allows us to be losing quality wai and then having to buy bottled wai for our marae, kaupapa and things like this. So, that was the whakapapa to it.
So, I guess we're talking about prohibition of extraction. How do you do that?
I think the first thing, actually, you do it by putting it into your RMA. No, I think the first thing we have to do is make sure that we are really clear on what it is that we're trying to do, and that is preserve the quality of wai and the preservation of wai in Aotearoa for all New Zealanders. And I think the way that we do that is to put in a members' bill to make sure that the regional and local council are able to enact that as well. And so that's what we've done. It's been frustrating relationships with the regional council. There's a lot of support to be able to make sure that our mokopuna, that all the future residents of Wanganui or any town never have to be buying their water when it's actually there in their own backyard, being bottled and shipped off.
And it's not just a whanganui taranaki. I mean, there's lots of it around the country, as you know.
Lots of support. And I think that's the reconciliation, all for great infrastructure. But we have to make sure that any reforms back to the RMA address that our resources are not an infinite supply, and we need to make sure that we preserve them for the next generations.
Is the Waiora Bill mainly focused on protecting freshwater from commercial extraction, particularly in packaged form, like bottling companies?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, that's how it's been proposed. And as you go through these negotiations, a certain party may say, hey, we'd like an amendment to this, an amendment to that. But that's what we've put out as proposing to be discussing with the other parties to look for support.
If we're talking about aquifers, though, the biggest distractors, as you know, are intensive farmers, agriculture and horticulture.
Yep, and commercial
Why not go
entities.
after them?
Yeah.
Why not go after them?
I think what we will do, because they are, and I'm not making excuses, but at the moment we've sort of, a members' bill has gone for those that are shipping it offshore. Yeah. A lot of ours, including regional councils, are extracting for local businesses that are employing locals. But definitely we need to have a view on all of the protection of wai.
Okay. Do you mind if I ask you an aligned question, but not necessarily focused on your private member's bill, the Waiora Bill? Do Māori own fresh water?
Māori are kaitiaki, and how could we not in the rights and interests of Te Tiriti? We have a whakapapa, our taonga, and we must always make sure we preserve it for our future generations, all future generations, not just Māori.
Is the way to embed this then going into the future, not just through legislation like RMA, is the way to do this to try and extend things like a co-management regime, the likes of which we've seen on the Waikato River Authority?
Yeah, and I don't even want to profess to be the expert. I think what we need to do, though, is be really clear that as taonga we have whakapapa, and we will always make sure that we look after our taonga. And if that means that we have to have other relationships to do that, then we have to first make sure that that complies with our role as kaitiaki under Te Tiriti and then the rights and interests that we have as tangata whenua. We are the only tangata whenua in Aotearoa. Because
there will be many people listening to this conversation and still don't understand how it is that, in the government's view, no one can own fresh water, and yet central government and local government still have the ability to manage that asset, which is akin to ownership.
And that's right. And I think it's not only akin to ownership, the commercialisation of our taonga and, the fact that there is this whakaaro of this infinite supply, the way that the RMA is shaping up, I am worried is removing that acknowledgement of our taonga.
Tautoko iho ana e te iwi, part 2 of our interview with Te Pāti Māori co-leader, Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. E haere tunu ana ngā kōrero a tātātou hui. Te Pāti Māori co-leader, Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, has never been one to hide what she thinks on the political issues of the day, including the recent whānau ora announcements. Mea nei te wahanga tuarua o ngā kōrero a Debbie Ngarewa-Packer. I want to talk about whānau ora in terms of the decision made by Te Puni Kōkiri in the 3 former whānau ora commissioning agencies losing their contracts. Why were you so scathing in that decision made by Te Puni Kōkiri?
It's an easy answer, because it was so successful. If it has had 15 audits and reviews, all exemplar, if it is getting into the homes of people that no other government agency contracts can, then surely you would invest in it more and create more commissioning agencies, because that is a clear model that works. But what we had was a government not only chop off the intel and the experience that it had gathered, it slashed and burned a successful model. You're using the excuse of procurement process. I'm sorry, it runs thin. It's kaka.
Do you not think that there might be organisations that could potentially deliver the outcome sought under whānau ora, a Māori solutions-led approach?
Absolutely.
That could do the job better?
Absolutely. I actually think there could have been some to do it better within their own regions as well. It's a model that could work in education. It's a model that could work in justice. Instead, what we've done is see it completely taken back. And I'm telling you, it's petty, because it's about personalising the performance of Māori and demonising success, so that we don't focus on what has been achieved. We actually focus on personality politics. And I think this government has really been great at demonising Māori. What we have is a minister prepared to gamble with something that is really important. I look here in the regions in Taranaki. This, for me, is not about a personality based in Tamaki Makaurau. This is actually, for me, about watching the impact that it has on grassroots communities like my own. And you take that away, then we have nothing. We're rebuilding. What he should have done is keep this going. Absolutely, keep it going. This is fabulous. Invest more and bring others through. Replicate the model, do it better. But what he's done is ended one and started another. There's been no transition. That doesn't sit with me. And gambling with our people's well-being, gambling in communities like my own, who would have struggled through some of the things that we had without a whānau ora kaupapa, is absolutely deplorable. It's disgusting that Tama's prepared to do that.
So you'll be aware there are only ever been 2 one-term New Zealand governments. They've both been Labour governments, by the way. Do you feel, though, that on the ground and the things that you see and feel from your communities, that this could lead to a one-term national government and a change in government in the election in 2026. Do you really sense and feel that now?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the health services, the pain that our people are having, it's not even just us in our crisis of anti-Māori, it's actually the crisis of health. The fact that every initiative take to address those with any diversity, our rainbow communities, our disabled communities, our Pacifica communities, there has never been an all-out launch of attack on those all at once. Last week, the kai tautoko and Pāho and our frontline hospitals have all been told that they've been wound up. Our budgeting services, all those sorts of things on the ground. And so I absolutely see that there is not only a desire, our communities are activating without being activated on the fact of this is what we need to see come to an end.
What about on a greater macroeconomic level, Trump and what's happening with tariffs and trade and all that kind of thing? Do you think that that's also setting up a change in government simply because that seems to be the experience that New Zealand has had when the world economy crashes? Even if it sneezes, New Zealand catches the cold.
There's such a lot geopolitically happening with Trump and the uncertainty, and there's not a single part of the world not affected. But our second highest contact and communications is about a genocide. And the fact that this government and Trump continues to support a genocide. And there's no two sides to genocide. So we have people who are seen daily, babies being strewn to bits. And there is an absolute revulsion that this is where New Zealand sits in the geopolitical scene of life. We are normally the peacemakers. We are anti-nuke. We're the place you come to when everyone else is acting dog. And yet we've got a government that is following every step in Trump. We've got Winston Peters making every soundbite that Trump makes. I'm really confident that Aotearoa cannot stomach those politics on our lands.
I asked Christopher Higgins about next year's election and asked him about standing Labour Party candidates in Māori seats. And if he wanted to have a coalition government of a Labour government, of a Green Party and a Māori Party government, coalition government, one way to potentially achieve that was to not stand Labour Party candidates in the Māori electorates. And he completely ruled that out. In fact, he said he, quote, look forward to the fight. What do you make of that?
I think Te Pāti Māori's success is such that while we have real humility and gratitude for it, we're not concerned with what Chris Hipkins' approach for the Māori seats are. We will be going for all the seats and plus some general, and we won't be light Māori. We don't need a light blue. We need another government that is going to be from the left with Te Pāti Māori in there, making sure that they are indeed transformational. Otherwise, these two legacy parties are just holding each other. It's just a little flick to the left, a little flick to the right. So that's our point of difference. And when people come out to vote for us and when we go out to ask for their support, that's what we'll be promising, the same that we did in 2023.
Were you surprised then by Chris Hipkins' comments to the statements by Tamitha Paul about police presence? Because it sounded very similar to the comments made by the Prime Minister, Christopher Luxon, to a young Māori female MP in Parliament.
From the regions. I think, we know when you are a certain race, a certain place, the police treat us differently. And the fact that we have leaders who don't get that is more reason why Te Pāti Māori must be in place. What we set off to do was to ensure that we had a tiriti-centric Aotearoa, that we had an Aotearoa where everyone could live in peace with dignity and reach their true potential, where we could address the wealth disparity, we could address the health disparities, we could address the educational aspirations. So that's the point of difference, is that we can't do same old, because this whole circular same old has really cost us this time. I'm in Taranaki and we've seen all the exploration permits being opened up. So it tells me that what happened in the last time wasn't strong and solid enough to hold its own. So we have to be there. We have to be there to hold them to account.
Debbie Ngarewa-Packer, thank you very much for your time.
No worries.
Hei muri I ngā whakatairanga I tā tātou hui e te iwi, we meet the American singer-songwriter Maya Piata, who has a rich heritage, including Ngāti Tuwharetoa. E re tonu ana te mihi kia koutou katoa. Singer-songwriter Maya Piata might have been born in the USA, but the 29-year-old hasn't forgotten her whakapapa. The Ngāti Tuwharetoa artist, who lives in Texas, is in the country for a few shows and caught up with our reporter Ruwani Perera.
American singer-songwriter Maya Piata performing her unique brand of sunshine soul in Aotearoa.
The crowd at the Aotearoa Square in the Spiegel tent was incredible. They brought so much energy and so much life force into that tent. I really feel like we raised the roof. We literally raised the roof. Everybody coming up and their smiles and running up to the stage and dancing. I'm so grateful that people got up and got dressed and drove out and showed up, because that was a night that I'll never forget.
Born in New Orleans, her whānau had to flee their home when Hurricane Katrina hit in 2005, forcing them to relocate to Dallas, Texas.
I was recently reminded that I'm a refugee. I was like, oh my God, yeah, I am. I was displaced and my house was a mile from the levee. So, you know, it literally got washed away. Thank you.
Great.
Maya has a rich cultural heritage, African American, Apache Native American, and she's also one of us, from her mum's iwi, Ngāti Tuwharetoa.
I know that my lake is Taupo, my mountain is Tongariro.
Is that all up on stage? Does that all come out in your music?
Absolutely, there's no choice. It's just like my face. I just carry it and it shows. And also Creole and English and German. Something that I've learned from the Māori people today is that it's not about being half Black and half Māori and half Native American and half Creole and half white. I just am.
I'll probably take a pinch more vocals, just a splash.
Hers is an impressive whakapapa.
I'm happy. Thanks, guys.
Princess Pieta has a ring to it.
It does.
But it comes with much responsibility.
Her great-grandfather was Ngāti Tuwharetoa's last paramount chief, Tā Hepi Te Hiuhiu.
I know that he is a peace leader. I know that he gave his life to make his people's lives better. That's where I feel most related to him. Always doing my best to give and share. It's coursing through my blood, from paramount chiefs to hardworking, strong Black people who had to pick cotton, which is a tough job, to my grandfather, who was the first colored train conductor. I'm proud of that. I just want to do my best to represent well and tell my truth as well, and add on top of everything, all of my ancestors, everything that they've built. My job now is to add mine on top to make our mountain just a little bit taller, or a lot.
It was local TV show Mai Te Pakipaki that bridged the cultural gap for Maya and her mum back in Texas.
Mai Te Pakipaki was our lifeline to New Zealand and to the Māori accent, Māori faces, Māori songs. That was our time where me and my mum, we would sit together. I love anything singing, and she loves anything Māori. And so that was our special time that we would spend together. We'd get our little nibbles and we'd have our little wine in our bubbles and we'd sit and we'd enjoy it. When I came last time 10 years ago, when we landed, they surprised me with an audition to go on Mai Te Pakipaki. I was like, what? We're going to the audition? And to get on the show and then to get in the studio and get on the stage and share my voice and show my face.
All of your regrets.
It really awakened this desire for the dream that I've always had about pursuing this path. And it gave me a taste of my dream life.
Baby, but oh, your eyes are making it all worthwhile.
Your parents met while your mum was in the Kahurangi Māori Dance Theatre touring the States in 1994
Aye.
and met your dad. Tell me about that love story.
It's extremely special just from two people from the opposite sides of the world meeting for a flash of time and deciding to sew together and stay together. Creating life, me and my brother. I'm so grateful to come from such intensely passionate, wonderful, bold people.
Do you ever look, Maya, at New Zealand with all the kind of craziness in America at the moment? Is this something in your future that you might come and live here?
I would love that. I've always felt that way. I don't want to go back to America because New Zealand is paradise for me, but there's so much work to do in America, even though it is scary right now. It is. I have a national tour happening right now till next spring where I'm going around to over 20 colleges in America. And I think that what I have right now, even my songs that I wrote in college, I feel like it's nutritious food to share with them. That's gonna be a healing thing and I'm really excited.
You one day want to do a full immersion like your reo and tikanga and all things Māori. Is that on the cards as well?
Yes, absolutely. I'd love to deep dive into my culture here, learn more, and add to my tool belt, especially so that I can pass it on if I'm privileged to have children. I want to do what my mother has done for me.
Some quick fire questions. All Blacks or Dallas Cowboys?
All Blacks.
Ketchup or tomato sauce?
Watties. Hands down, I'm drinking it. Yeah.
What are you watching on Netflix?
Bridgerton was cool. Yeah, it's like interracial, but also it talks about kind of strife between it. And I think that Queen Carolina is really amazing in real history because she was the first Black queen that brought beauty and gardens and art to the kingdom. And that's what I want to do.
Hangi or American barbecue?
Ooh. Barbecue.
Oh, okay. The whānau are going to be like angry.
Prove me wrong, though. I'm excited for that.
Too much to the kazi from Tuwaretoa. Our thanks to all our pūkorero for today's hui. Join us next week for more kia mau ki te tūranga o taputapu a te haumi e hui e. Taiki e. Nā te puna whakatongarewa, te hui i tautoko.